It has been a wild week for cryptos. I mean, the entire crypto market was down more than $400 billion at one point. China has plans to shut down more than 90% of its mining capacity. China's central bank is urging its smaller banks to crack down even harder on crypto trading. The US is forming committees to discuss how digital currencies could impact us, which very well could lead to more regulation. Bitcoin has had what's called the death cross, with its 50-day moving average price drop below its 200-day moving average, which some feel is a bad sign. So what's next? What is next? No one can know for certain, but I can tell you what I'm doing and why. I'm buying. In the last 2 days, during these tumultuous price tumbles, I have been gobbling up more market share in my favorite crypto projects. As of this minute, I have purchased $40,000 in various coins in the last 30 or so hours. That is not as easy as it sounds, because there's always this huge mental hurdle to actually buy the dip. You know, the idea of buying the dip when you're up high sounds great, but then when the dip actually dips, you don't really want to buy it, because the dip can always just keep on dipping. And it did. It did. So yesterday, I notified my Patreon members, which you can join if you'd like. I believe there's 6 spots open still, so you'll want to join sooner than later. Anyways, I notified my members of the purchase, and I said, not only is this not financial advice, it's never financial advice, but be careful, because it's a very volatile day and prices may have more room to go down. And they did. And then they did even more. And then at this point, I figured, you know, the bloodbath might be over, but I still had some dry powder over on the side left just in case we saw a further drop. And guess what? Guess what? It did, by quite a lot. So then I absolutely unloaded this morning by buying $19,000 more. And at this point, I'm waving my white flag, like, give me some mercy here. And luckily, things have recovered to at least yesterday's levels. So my purchases this morning, my big $19,000 purchases, looking pretty good, but who knows what's going to happen by tomorrow. Here's my buys from yesterday. So why am I doing this? 3 major reasons. Number 1, I believe in crypto as a technology. I believe it's such a transitive force that's just sneaking up on just about everyone, individuals and industries. When people think of cryptos, they think solely about the price, but the real value is the level of disruption the tech will have, at least in my opinion. Over time, things just naturally get more and more efficient, and middlemen eventually get wiped out. Crypto will do that to nearly every industry. The problem is that we're so early on in this technology that the only way to describe what's going on is by explaining how the tech works, which is inherently very complicated. Imagine I told you about some new online business that you could invest in, but instead of explaining what it's actually doing, I tell you about how HTML works or what a TCP/IP protocol is. You're likely going to be confused. You're likely not going to care whatsoever about what they actually do or what the future is of that company. This is where crypto is at right now, because it's so new. In 15 years, when we're talking about cryptos, we're not going to talk about any of the underlying tech. We'll talk about how instead you don't need a bank to loan you money anymore, or insurance is much cheaper. The average person is just not going to talk about hash rates or block size. They're going to talk about how it actually changes their lives. And that's where I think it's eventually headed. Now, number 2, the second reason why I'm buying, to practice what I preach. I buy the dip because I say I'm going to buy the dip. And I'm also glad I have an audience for that reason too, because you guys keep me accountable, even though it's painful at times to buy the dip. I do it because I have a long-term focus. And I know even if, for example, I buy ADA and it drops lower after I buy, I'm better off buying at $1.05 than I am at $1.75. That's just maths. But I guess in truth, neither will really matter a decade from now when it's trading at multiples higher than where it's sitting right now. And then finally, the third reason why I'm buying is I think all this friction that we're seeing with China and possible regulation here in the US is actually a good sign. Regulators and governments don't push back on things that aren't impactful. The fact that it's working, the fact that it's building steam, in my opinion, is a good thing. And the sign that there's a fight against it is also a good sign, because it means it's working. So whenever I see any kind of like headline that's like, China does this again with cryptocurrency, I'm kind of like, that makes me want to buy.
China, 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 China.
Now, I do have concerns, and those concerns need to be addressed. First concern, cryptos are insanely hard to value. there's no model, at least yet, for valuing cryptocurrencies like you can with a stock with a discounted cash flow, which is what I'm used to doing. So it's a bit different for me. I mean, you could look at things like the number of wallets holding a coin, the number of dollars of disruption for a various project, the number of businesses built on a crypto ecosystem, but we really just don't even know how to value those things yet. We don't know how to value a business on the ecosystem in the first place in order to then add them all together and then value the crypto ecosystem as a whole. So there's a lot of questions as to how this thing is valued, especially for something like Bitcoin. Who's to say if Bitcoin is worth $10,000 or $100,000? The argument really is the same for either number, and that scares me a little bit. And then second, we may still be at some kind of peak. Many cryptos, despite sharp declines in the last months, are still up 5x or more in the last year, meaning there is still room to go down, and scenarios could be thought of where they don't hit previous highs again for years. That's why I think it's important to not really think about the price so much, think about use cases, think about level of disruption, and think about a long-term focus. Because if I was trying to make money next week, I would be pulling my hair out on a daily basis. And then third, the third concern of mine is these are very speculative investments. I strongly believe, and this is just my opinion, that things like cryptos and meme stocks should be the last thing added to your portfolio. I have a strong, stable base in my investment portfolio, and then I have these bets on the side. I believe in everything I'm buying in, but I look at it like angel investing, where all of these have strong use cases. One will probably knock it out of the park, and the others might just fall flat. And we just can't bank on any individual one, or you can't bank on your retirement on something like this, because we just don't know for certain. Even though it all makes sense, even though I'm optimistic, I just can't bank on something like that. And I think it's important to have a stable base. Now let's talk about the coins that I'm focusing on, the ones that I've bought more of in the last 30 or so hours. The first one is Cardano ADA. It's still a hot ADA summer. In case you're wondering, ADA has become my favorite project. They're extremely smart and methodical about how they approach changes, even going so far as publishing papers in scientific journals, allowing other academics to try and tear down their ideas. I appreciate that. They're a proof of stake network that will have smart contracts at some point in the next few months, and I think the potential here is massive. Next up, we have Ethereum. Ethereum to me is the most safe bet when it comes to crypto. They are by far the largest functional crypto ecosystem, meaning businesses can be built on top of their ecosystem. Then we have Bitcoin. I believe Bitcoin is just simply going to go up because it's the name brand, and institutional investors will continue to add it to their balance sheet. And they have some exciting things that are happening in the next few months with their Taproot upgrade, and you know what? I can get behind those upgrades and adding to their ecosystem. Then we have Chainlink. Chainlink is the name brand when it comes to blockchain oracles. As smart contracts get more popular, the need for real-world data in these contracts increases, and Chainlink is the name brand when it comes to that. And really, this is just a bet on smart contracts in general. And then we have VeChain. This is a perfect example of a crypto with a strong use case. They are tackling the $1 trillion counterfeit industry. And when I learned about VeChain, it just seemed like such a perfect and obvious solution that blockchain tech can solve where we're already at. Like, new tech doesn't need to be built. It already can do what they're trying to solve, and just makes a lot of sense to me. And that's gonna do it. Why I just dumped $40,000 more into crypto. Join the Patreon below. Check out the link for KuCoin if you'd like to use the crypto exchange that I use and pay way less in trading fees than Coinbase. And of course, as always, have a profitable day.